Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Not easy getting old, is it, Joseph?
My knee is hurting. I got a cough. I can't get my earbuds worked out. The cables. The fact that there are cables.
Even when you're trying to scarf down the sandwich before the show, it's like my old Jewish uncle. Right when he's getting out of the car and he has a sandwich and he wants to eat, and he's like, I just want a bite. But I know exactly what I'm talking about. So I was there. You weren't, Joseph.
I get it. But I get it. I understand.
Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm getting texted and I just got a phone call just when we're about to go on the air. Joe's got his bottle of seltzer again, like my Jewish uncle.
Robert Hellner, yeah, the drunks are here. Yes, drunks unite.
All right, so I am going to see if it is on my end. I don't think it is. I'll bring you down a little bit, but you sound like you're kind of like...
I can bring myself down.
Getting a little hot.
There we go. How's that? Is that better? Check 1, 2.
I don't know.
1, 2. Check
Whatever.
1, 2.
You sound good to me. We will see. We will see. Guys, again, phone number 888-659-3727. So great to be here. This is the Hair Loss Show with Joseph Tillman. That's what we're going to call it from now on. Because I'm out of here.
It's more distinguished, I think.
I'm fucking... It might be. It might be. You know, I'm putting information. I'm trying to create something a little unique on Instagram, which isn't working. Kind of is, kind of isn't. My Instagram is growing slowly. Went from 1,600 some odd people to 4,500 or something like that in the last couple of weeks, which is great. But I put the same shit on there all the time as far as really just warning people, trying to provide them with information that no one is going to provide them in this fucking cesspool of an industry. Not the top 5 hair loss hacks, not answering specific questions about I don't know. The typical stuff you see on social media. I'm not the Asian lady who's tapping my leg 17 times because supposedly there's some sort of a pressure point in your inner thigh that will stop your hair loss. I'm not the physician. I'm not the physician that's going online, doing those, I don't even know what they're called, when you kind of, you mouth the words to something and basically saying, this is why, you can't believe that rosemary oil works for your hair loss. These are the people that have 1 million followers. Mm-hmm. And this is the information that people are used to getting. It's absolutely insane. So I put out the information, and the guy writes today, why can't you provide us with something constructive? I have to I have to laugh to myself. So what you're telling me is that saving your ass from being fucking disfigured isn't constructive. But the truth is, I understand.
Of course.
It's what these kids are used to. These quick fixes.
No one wants to listen to 2 old guys telling them not to do what they think is, number 1, easy to do. Number 2, anyone can do well. And number 3 is the answer to all their problems. Why should they listen to a couple of old guys with high hairlines? It's I get it.
How dare you? What are you talking about?
Well, you hide yours better than me. I show mine off.
Oh, no, I don't mind about the highness of the hairline. I'm talking about the old guy.
Oh, I'm just repeating what you say. Speaking of hairlines,
Yes.
how's the hair today? Is it particularly high today?
Hold on. Are we frozen on your feed? No,
Shouldn't
we're not.
No.
Your hair looks good, dude. I mean, you've had you have had 10 hair transplants. Your guys
don't feed into that 10 hair transplants.
But that's good.
Most of them were tiny.
Of course they were tiny, but still, you took the right approach after you fucked up twice.
Yes.
You didn't go and say, you know what, I'm going to bombard this with 5,000 grafts and cross my fingers and hope for the best. You were already fucked up.
My hair.
Your hair. So you did
Actually,
it the
I was
right
pretty
way.
fucked up when I had my first repair. I was kind of fucked up. But, what you were talking about with the can't you just be constructive or offer something constructive comment? I've been more involved. Well, I've been involved. I've never really been involved before, but I'm now involved with the world of Reddit for the first time on any sort of level that I take seriously. And what I mean by that is, in the past, I have my own subreddit, Hair Transplant Mentor. But I never did any. I put all my classes there up until like class 23 or 24. And then I stopped because there was no traction. No one was jumping on there to say, hey, wow, this is great information. It's like, okay, fine. I gave it a shot. I gave it the old college try. But I decided to jump into a different subreddit because I saw there was a lot of activity and I saw there was a lot of bad information, just like there is everywhere. But the difference with Reddit is you have people talking about this bad information as if it's like they believe this stuff and they think that what they're talking about makes sense, and I get that. They don't have any real guidance. So old Joe Tronic dusted off his keyboard, and he's gone to work. And I got to tell you, on one level, it's been fun because I love dispensing the truth in an almost unfiltered fashion. I'm able to do that on Reddit. I don't have to temper myself as much. I'm not like disparaging anyone. It was just, but I'm telling people the truth the way that I feel like it might get through to them, and it's working. But here's an example of what I was dealing with the other day. This guy posted a photo and he said, I've been recommended 3,500 grafts by some clinic in Turkey. What do you guys think? Middle-aged Asian guy, Norwood 3. He's got a little bit of thinning on top. And I asked the question, well, what clinic is it? And he's mentioned the clinic, and I looked at the clinic, and they do boobs, butts, lips, eyelids, rhinoplasty, and hair. And not a single page on this website had any mention of any doctor, much less a hair transplant doctor. And so I brought it to the guy's attention, like, so you want to consider a clinic where you can't even find a name of any doctor that does any surgery, and you don't know if anything that you're being told is true because there's no information on the website. Long story short, he's talking about the Instagram results that he likes, but his friend went to this clinic and he liked his results. And I explained to him why this was a bad idea. And I was pretty direct, pretty blunt.
You?
Yes, me. And so he comes back and says, well, my friend went there and I liked his result. I said, so, and I explained why that didn't make sense. And then he comes back with a very telling question. Where do you recommend I go? And it's like, it's not about, like, you don't ask that question if you don't know why. And I told him, and this is something I'm telling people more often now, is you need to ask questions, but you can't ask questions until you know what the answers mean beforehand. So that's why you need to read about the different procedures and try to figure out, the fact from fiction. It's tough. But before you go to a clinic and start asking questions, you're not going to learn anything from them except their marketing fluff. And I told this guy, it's like, that's not, you don't ask me or anyone for recommendations, because if I give you a recommendation on where to go, you won't know why I'm making that recommendation. Even if I tell you, it won't be something you can process. You have to understand, first off, what's important to you. Is it naturalness? Like, you're a middle-aged guy, and I imagine you don't want people to know you're having a hair transplant. So what are you going to do if it looks like the teeth of a comb sticking out of your head? So it was this kind of stuff. And one guy made a comment. So what we can take from this is Joe Tillman is intense.
Well, he's not lying, Joseph.
He's not lying. But
he's not lying.
I am intense because that kind of, like, I'm passionate about this. And if I can get someone to listen and understand and maybe prevent them from actually making a dumb mistake, I don't know if they're going to come out with a great result regardless of where they go. They could go to a clinic I work with or you work with or you know, who's supposedly the best. They could still get fucked up. That's part of what we talk about. But well, at least I made them think.
Right. And listen, I get it. I get that all the time. And I get a lot of people who DM me, and I'm like, why are you DMing me? Why not just ask the question for public consumption so everyone can benefit? Yeah. So I get stuff, and sometimes it's a little snarky or nasty, and it's just like, you know, can't you just, you know, give us a list of doctors? And this happened the other day. And I wrote this guy, I said, look, I founded the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons more than 20 years ago, IAHRS.org. This is a good place to start. And I always just say, but this is not a recommendation to have surgery. Surgery is a last resort, as I always say, and please do not just pick from this group of doctors in this society and decide to jump down the surgical route. And then usually they come back with they're a little softer. Like, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest. Thank you for explaining things. I've been thinking about surgery for a long time. I was going to go to something of Istanbul or whatever. Everything's of Istanbul now, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Scammer of Istanbul. That's what they're all called.
And so I have this one guy on my Instagram who kind of vacillates back and forth. And anytime somebody comes back and says, well, I had, 2 hair transplants, I'm ecstatic, whatever it is, this guy's like, I want to get it done too. Where did you go? And then he'll come back to me and say, now I'm nervous. I'm still nervous because of the stuff that you're putting online. And then somebody will come out with a positive story, and then he'll direct his question to them. Where did you go? And it's just this constant thing instead of just like, hey, you know what, let's step back. Let me do my own research. Let me figure out why Kobren is out there saying surgery could be a good thing, but you really have to do your homework. What's his angle? Why is he doing this? Let me try to figure this out. They didn't even take the time to figure that out. Like, I got no skin in the game by telling you this. I just want to ensure that you guys are making informed decisions. That's better for the entire industry, it's better for your lives, and it's better for me.
Well, it's obvious why. You're being paid by Merck.
Oh, that's right. I fucking forgot. Let's take a phone call. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Good morning, Joe and Spencer. It's Graham. I finally called in. How are you guys?
Hey, Graham, how are you, man?
I was going to say, it must be Graham. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really, really well, and don't change anything what you're doing on Instagram, Spencer or Joe. I love watching the shit and reading the little comments and understand it fully. So,
I appreciate
it's just fantastic. It freaks me out. It freaks me out, and that's what stops me getting a hair transplant, and that's what I love.
Well, I mean, listen, you've been around. You've been dealing with this for a long time. You have from what I can see, relatively limited amount of donor. But you're. I don't know if you are in the same category as Morty. Morty decided to go down the route, and he lucked out. He took his time. He found the right surgeon. He listened to what we had to say. But if you can get on with life, and this is what I always say, without having surgery, then that's the best way to go, because then you're taking no risk.
Definitely. And the big reason I'm ringing up is, and it's kind of a different thing that you've never really talked about, and I thought I'm the perfect person to talk about it. Everyone gets freaked out of being on Finasteride, which I was that guy. I was on Finasteride, was working $1 million. This was back in the early 2000s, I think. Yeah. Didn't want to lose my hair, worked fantastic, but my libido dropped and I felt like shit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, since that time, I ended up getting diagnosed with depression and I went on an antidepressant. So I basically turned my life around. I felt $1 million and I ended up going off Finasteride. I had a fantastic partner at the time and I knew I'd go backwards, which I did. And then so all the years I was feeling great and I thought maybe I should just try Finasteride again. And so I started with the topical Finasteride, no side effects, went on to generic Finasteride, taking it only 3 times a week, which is a peanut dose, as you guys would know. Basically nothing, absolutely no side effects. So I thought, okay, I'll start taking a 0.5 milligram a day, no side effects. And I'm walking around and seeing improvement in the hair that I have.
That's great.
And then I decided to increase to 1 milligram. And to this day, now I've got absolutely no side effects. So the point I'm getting at...
And now I'm on 10 milligrams. I'm just kidding.
No. But the point I'm getting at is that for me, I honestly think it was underlying depression that I never had resolved. And I noticed my depression in my early 20s, and maybe it was because I was losing my hair, I was that shattered, which I was at the time.
Sure.
It's still, there is a point of me that I'm still shattered now because I see all these good results, and then you think, oh, fuck, maybe I should go down that alley. But then I see your videos and I listen to the show so often. It's more of a hobby now, and I know how easy it can go wrong, and you can be left with a train wreck of a disaster on your head. And that's what I don't think's worth the risk. But now hair loss for me is more of a hobby. But getting back to the side effects, they have absolutely no side effects at all. I'm using a generic Finasteride. Back in the old days, I was a tight ass and using Prosca, which you guys use, and cutting it into quarters and giving me 1.25 milligrams. I don't know if it has anything to do with I was just taking that bit too much, but definitely I can say after all these years, I have no side effects. So I don't want everyone that's got a side effect running out to a doctor and saying, I've got depression. I'm just telling you my story and what has worked for me. It took me 10 years to actually get back on Finasteride, and I lost all that ground and all that hair, which I knew, for me, I always thought I was destined to lose my hair, so it's not as much of a worry now in my life as it was when I was a younger guy. But when I see people like Morty and I see people like Adrian, shout out to those guys. Adrian's over at Eugenics at the moment. I see their good result and I think, geez, maybe I should do it, but my life is so good. I don't need to do that. As you know, I've got little baby Cooper now and
that's great,
my partner Grace, and we've got an awesome life, man, so
it looks like you do.
And here's the thing. I mean, at least you have the information that you need to make an informed decision. If at some point in your life you're like, you know what, I wouldn't mind framing my face, or I feel like, it could benefit me. And, you're willing to be relatively conservative and you know the right doctors to go to. I mean, there's a chance that you could be a Morty. I don't know if you want to be a Morty, but you can be a Morty, or you can be, an Adrian who went through hell and back, and you can have a good result. But if you don't really need it to live your life and to be happy, then why take the risk? That's the bottom line.
That's a good point you told me. I think when I called the show about 3 years ago, Spencer, you said to me, hair transplants always going to be there. Just basically hit the brakes, think about what you're doing, it's life-changing. And I remember it stuck in my head and I said, you know, what a great point, you know, because every day you see these guys, they're losing a bit of hair, these young guys, and they're running out to get a hair transplant. And it's not the path they need to go down. And I understand that now I'm older. I don't know, I think in your 20s, you're young, dumb, and full of cum. You just got no idea what you're doing. You know, it's all about the women, and you don't want to lose your hair. But as you get older, you really, really focus on what's the right things to do. You know, like Joe posted the guy's hairline the other day, and I think I left a comment. It was a bit all over the shop, the hairline at the front. But back 20 years ago, I thought a straight hairline would look good. And I'm so wrong. You know, there's so many things that I would have made a mistake. Still to this day with this show, I learn every week or every time you're on, all those little clips you post, Spencer. So that's why I always leave a little comment and things like that. I enjoy it more than anything.
Well, you're a good man. Go ahead, Joe.
Look, Graham, we really you've been a tremendous supporter of both of us and the show together, and I love hearing your take on things, because you're one of those people that has been fighting the fight for a long time. Did I just say that?
Yes.
I didn't realize I just said that. Sorry, so little inside baseball there. But you've been fighting the good fight, I'll say, for a very long time. And what you're saying about, you know, the younger guys, young, dumb, full of cum, that's a very old saying, by the way. I remember hearing that for the first time in Mexico 30 years ago. They don't have the benefit of hindsight like you do or I do or Spencer does, because we have life experience. We've learned through our own interactions with people and the world over the course of our lives that, you know, we can easily and have easily made decisions that we really regretted, like Spencer especially. And we go and we go through life and we learn to stop and we learn to stop and really take stock in what's important before we make a big decision. And when it comes to something like a hair transplant, it's very rare. Like it happens. In fact, on like the Reddit story I just talked about, that's one of those rare cases where it does happen, where middle-aged guys, our age guys, are taking the plunge because someone else did it done, or they're following Instagram, or you know they know one guy that had a good result. That's not that common. It's the younger guys that are doing that because they don't have the benefit of life experience to stop them and say, hold on, I need to see some consistency here. I need to understand why I like the way this looks. Like, does this look like something I'd see on the street? Someone, a consultant I was talking to earlier today, he brought that up because we were talking about this exact same issue. And so when I hear what you're talking about and your experience, I just think it's the greatest thing, because it's such a strong story that I wish a lot of younger guys could not just hear, but grasp, which in and of itself is a challenge when you're 22 years old, losing your hair, and all your other friends have more hair than you do, and you think that's the ticket to getting some more action.
And look, I understand 100% when these guys are like arguing with me or trying to argue with me. I don't argue online. When they respond or if they write a comment and it's kind of like, you know, they're trying to zest me a little bit or, you know, be argumentative, I'm just like, look, these are the facts. You take away, you know, from this what you can, what you think is logical. You know, my job is to try to just present you with this information. I'm not here to argue with you. And that's it. Now, that's what Joe does. That's Joe's job. Joe is here to argue with you. I'm here to present the facts. That's it.
I'm here to argue and win.
Yeah, but I have no skin in the game. I don't want to waste any more of my time. I don't know how long I'm going to fucking be on this earth. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. Take from it what you will, people. That's it. But I will say there's no doubt that the Asian lady who says you can grow your hair back by tapping your inner thigh 10 times gets a lot more views than I do. I can tell you
I've
that.
been tapping my knee. I've been tapping the other thing, but it definitely doesn't make my hair grow. So you know what I'm talking about.
Hello.
All right, Graham. Well, listen, my man. You are. First of all, I appreciate the fact that you're calling from. You're in Melbourne, right? Right now.
Yeah, 10 a.m. this morning. That's why I always say it's Saturday morning here. It's perfect for us Aussie fans.
Yeah, I appreciate you being such a fan of the show, and I appreciate all of the the commentary that you make on Instagram. You're helping to make it grow as well, which I think is anyone who is a fan of the program, anyone who really wants to help us to provide consumers with, again, the information they need to make reasonable decisions, at least. I mean, we appreciate you, doing what you're doing as well. And you always bring us good content, so thanks for the call, man.
Thank you very much, and have a great night. And like I said, hello to Adrian over there in eugenics, and hello to Morty. And sometimes we have a little chat together. Fantastic people, man. And thank you for the show.
All right, Graham, listen, you take care. It's great talking to you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a great show.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Graham.
Cheers.
888-659-3727. That last 100 milligrams of caffeine was totally unnecessary, Joe. By the way, because I didn't eat yet.
Oh, see, will we see Spencer crash in the middle of the show today? That'll be interesting.
No, that's why I took the 100 milligrams as opposed to drinking coffee.
I love hearing from Graham. Graham he's one. I call him a super fan, which I stole that term from. I think it was from YouTube, or was it from Patreon? A super fan? I don't know.
All I know is that I was about to take another call, and you're like, I love hearing from Graham, and then people just like, fuck this, and they hang up.
I just want to say about Graham, he's got just the cutest damn baby. I like every time I see him post, I'm looking for his kid because he's so damn adorable. And,
he's adorable.
His hair's grown in now. I'm like, aha, girl in the hair. It's all starting. It's all looking good. No, not bad. It's like his hair's growing in, and he's starting to get older. And I actually think about the pictures I saw of him when he was younger. It's like, this kid's grown up fast. He's not even my kid. I'm like, he grows up fast.
Dude,
so
they all grow up fast.
Graham, you got a gorgeous family.
Zaren's kid, his oldest kid, just turned 7. I was at a christening.
My God. Wow. There's a lot of things, a lot of talk I'm hearing from Australian patients, and this is another Reddit related story where I had a guy.
Hold on. While Joe continues his conversation with himself, can you guys hold on? Okay,
and don't forget to like the broadcast. Hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and ring the bell for all notifications. So
guys are on hold. We will take your call in a second. Go ahead, Joseph.
I loved talking to this guy because he reached out to me. I'm getting a lot of DMs on the back end with Reddit. And that's the great thing about my participation is people are noticing. I'm not getting any shit from people. That's what I'm surprised about. I'm not getting hammered with me being a shill or because I'm very, very transparent in everything I say. So I think it was a good strategy. But I'm getting a lot of DMs on the back end. And this one guy in Australia, he wanted to know about this clinic that he and his buddy were going to go to. And I'll keep this one short, but he eventually decided, you know what, I'm going to listen to you. I'm not going to go to this clinic. I'm going to do more research. So I saved one.
Yeah.
Very happy about that.
Well,
he then asked me, how can I save my friend from going because he's dead set. He's already bought it. This guy already bought his airline ticket. His buddy bought his airline ticket. And he wanted to know what I could tell him to talk his buddy out of it. He failed. His buddy said, nope, I got my ticket. I'm going. You can stay here. That's fine. So fast forward a few days, and the guy is like, I need to, based on what you're saying, I need to go see a doctor about my hair loss future and getting on medication. Guy went on medication. The guy is a clear Norwood 5A-ish, but he's going to be a 7. And he's like 31, if I remember correctly, 31, 32. I told him, go see Bevan Borul, the dermatologist in Melbourne. He will be straight up with you. You can maybe get a prescription for oral minoxidil if that's what you and he decide is best for your case. Maybe get a prescription for something else if you want to try more than one at one time. I recommend you try one instead. But I went through all that. He said that he set up a consultation with a doctor, a hair transplant doctor, that was free. Dr. Boy Rule is not free. He does charge for consultations, but you have to go through your family doctor to get a recommendation. I understand how it works there. But the hair transplant clinic, and this is an old guard, old school hair transplant doctor. I didn't think he was actually still practicing. I thought he retired.
I didn't even know if he probably didn't think he was alive. I think I know who you're talking about.
I know he's alive because I won't say where I saw him.
Yeah.
That'll give away who it is, but I talked about it. But he's still hustling hair. I love that term. He's still hustling hair. And I told him, he said, should I take the free one, or should I pay for the one with Dr. Boy Rule, or should I just take the free one? I said, take them both. I said, invest the money, because Dr. Boy Rule, he's not going to try to sell you surgery, but go to the free one and understand they are going to try to sell you surgery, but at least get a prescription if you can. And just get and use this as an opportunity for an education.
And ask for Xanax too. Why not?
And ask for it. Well, of course. So he went. And this guy, he's not a good candidate now because, number one, he needs to be educated more. Number two, he needs to get on medication. Number three, he doesn't have the best donor area. So he reported back and he said, yeah, they said I only have about 2,000 grafts in my donor area. And then they wrote me a script for oral minoxidil. The doc said that he and some other people that will be unnamed are also have been taking this for a while. They're very happy with it. So it was a educational on that end, and he told them why. But then he said, "But if you want to do a hair transplant, sure. If that's what you want to do, we can do that.
Of course.
2,000 grafts.
Yeah. And they would have done it.
They would have been happy to do it.
Absolutely.
And so I told him, I said, so what did you learn from this? He said, I learned that they'll tell me anything I want. And that's scary. Like he got an education far beyond what he expected to get because of what I told him to look out for, and he saw it. And that flipped off a light bulb. So I'm encouraged by these little baby steps that I'm making.
And they are.
Anyone
sadly,
that's listening to this,
sadly, they are baby steps, because we've been doing this for a very long time, and I see exactly what's happening online with my baby steps and me putting out content, and just the resistance. Like, what do you want me to do, guys? I could just sell hair transplants all day. It's easy for me.
Of course.
Be like, okay, yeah, go here. Tell the doc. I can put online consultations on all of our sites. Make a fucking fortune. I can grow the organization 3 or 4 times if I decided to do that. Just take on any doctor, not a problem.
Mm-hmm. It's easy.
Actually, it's not a bad idea. I'm getting tired.
So,
like
Dr.
to take a
Ken
phone
Anderson is in the room. I want to address this first, and we'll take the call if you don't mind. Ken Anderson, hello, Doc. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. I'm going to read what he said in the chat room, because I've found in the last 20 years of performing hair restoration surgery that dermatologists in the USA are often not able to adequately counsel patients about their hair loss. I agree 100%, and I believe that you're maybe chiming in on that, because I recommended to this guy in Australia to go see this dermatologist, Dr. Bevan Boy Rule. Dr. Bevan Boy Rule is not a typical dermatologist. He is, and I would never send a patient at this level of in need of education to a run-of-the-mill dermatologist. I agree with you on that front, and I've had a lot of experience in my 20 years as well. I totally get where you're coming from. Dr. Bevan Boy Rule, however, I have no problem saying this is different. Number one, he trained in hair restoration under Christian Bazanga, so he knows how to do a good hair transplant if he needs to, when he does. But he's also a researcher in hair loss medication. He's got a lot of experience with oral minoxidil in particular, and he's big on prescribing medication first before any surgery. Like he really pushes that. And He's so concerned about this subject that he calls me to express his concern over how doctors are being irresponsible and even unethical in how they dish out surgery so easy. He knows what he's talking about. He's got a great head on his shoulders when it comes to what to do and what not to do. So again, I completely agree with you that dermatologists in general are not good resources for this. This is one of the exceptions.
Can we take a fucking call?
No, actually, I want to say, of course, go ahead. Next.
Jesus Christ, I can't shut this person up.
I'm on a roll, man. I'm hot today.
No, you are. You are. And I will make one more comment. I was at a dermatologist this week, very learned, just a very good at what she does. But you walk into the office and it's all like, you see all of the advertising from all the different companies for PRP. The nutraceutical company, that's one of the bigger ones, the biggest one now, that's in every dermatologist's office. And I'm thinking to myself, medicine's so fucked up now, man. It is so fucked up because this person is really an expert at what she does, but everything is an upsell. And as soon as I get back, I'm seeing stuff in my email for fucking Restylane and Botox and specials and all this stuff. And that's just the way medicine is now. It's really sad. But the reality is, again, as good as this dermatologist is, a great diagnostician, very well known for what she does, it's like, oh, you're dealing with hair loss? Let's give you some PRP. What kind of PRP is it? I don't know. I buy this kit from this company, and it seems good. And that's it. Let's take a phone call.
Let's try some PRP.
Let's try some PRP.
Let's try something.
Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello.
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 Hey, how's it going?
All right. Who's this and where are you calling from?
I'm Hiram, and I'm coming from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hiram, you're coming from
Hiram.
Atlanta or you're calling from Atlanta?
Calling, sorry.
It's okay. What's happening, Hiram?
None. I'm 27, right? And I'm having some temple loss at on my front temple. And I've talked to 2 doctors, and then they recommended exosomes.
Exosomes?
And I just don't know the exosomes. Yeah. Just don't know the efficacy of it, and just kind of want to.
I'm going to be honest with you. No one really does. There is some data out there that depending on where you read it and who you go to, and depending on where the exosomes are coming from, where it can be effective. I've seen exosome treatment with PRP be effective for the right person. However, you sound like you're a young guy. You got to understand that this is would be an ongoing treatment that is relatively expensive to be done consistently. Even if you have it done with, a lot of doctors will sell packages. So they'll be like, you know what, you only need exosomes once a year, and you can do PRP 4 times a year. Or sometimes it's a package of 3. It really depends. There's no real set standard of care when it comes to these biologics, and especially when it comes to hair loss. So I always look at this a little bit with a jaundiced eye. Now, with that said, there's some really great hair transplant surgeons and hair loss specialists who are starting to recommend these things now. But if you're only 27 and you're just essentially losing hair in your temples and your hairline is just starting to recede, I honestly think that most doctors should tell you that your first line of attack should be medication. Was that told to you?
Yeah, I'm already on Finasteride 1 milligram, and then minoxidil from Hims twice a day, morning and night.
When did you start?
I'm on my second 90-day supply.
Okay, so you just started taking medication.
Correct.
Okay, and what are you seeing now that you're on medication? Are you seeing any changes, anything positive?
I've seen, they've said I have baby hair, like Bella's hair.
Bella's hair, yeah.
Yeah, coming in right where the temples were receding a little bit.
Okay. My advice is this. Do not fuck with it. Continue on with your medication. Talk to your doctor about it, of course. I'm not a doctor, but it seems like you are already seeing results after only 90 days. You know, or within that period of only in your second subscription delivery. So I think you should just continue on with medication. Give it at least a year before you consider anything. You may grow enough hair back where you feel completely satisfied. And once you realize that you're stopping or there's a cessation of hair loss, emotionally, that can also be incredibly satisfying. You may think to yourself, you know what? I'm comfortable right now. I'm just going to stick with this.
Yeah, okay.
It's unlikely that you're going to grow a significant amount of hair back from exosome treatment. I just want you to know that.
Yeah. The doctor said about 70% have a reaction to it.
And what's the reaction? What kind of reaction do you tell you they have?
Of hair growth.
Okay. What's the name of the doctor? You're in Atlanta. What doctor are you seeing?
It's one that comes on your show quite often.
Oh. So you're John Cole?
No.
Ken Anderson? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, look.
Yeah.
Ken Anderson's in the chat room right now. And, yeah, I mean, people do get a reaction. And a lot of times it's a positive reaction. But is it a cessation of hair loss? Is it some regrowth that you may still get since you're so early on medication? You know, I love Dr. Anderson, but my advice, and I'm not a physician, is you just started medication, man. Give it another 6 months at least before you consider doing anything. And also realize that any time you put, whether it's a biologic or your own, PRP into your scalp, anything that could potentially grow hair could also set you into a shedding phase or a telogen effluvium. So while you're holding on to what you're holding on to with medication, you're in a good position. A lot of people who start medication end up worse at the beginning than, getting results as quickly as you did. You seem to be a good responder. I would stick with that.
Okay.
My opinion on this is, you've just started. You're already seeing early prelim results, which is great. Good for you. I love hearing that. You got a lot more time to see an increase in the efficacy of seeing results. With Finasteride, you have a 2-year window where the efficacy can supposedly increase. Your results can continue to get better before the chances of it getting even better plateaus. It's about 24 months based on studies that I read. So you got a lot of time for this to improve. But the big thing that I'm always preaching about is when you start off with multiple modalities, multiple treatments, where you already started with the minoxidil, you already started with Finasteride, and then you're going to potentially throw something else into the mix, and you're so early in your non-surgical process, and you continue to have positive results. How do you know which one is actually doing what it's doing? How do you know which one is contributing to the result of new growth or better growth, and which is not? You have no idea. So you're potentially locked into that cycle of going back to have, a PRP or an exosome treatment on top of being locked into already taking Finasteride and minoxidil because you don't know which one of those two is working better than the other. Like, they could be working together equally as well or complementing each other, and you want to stick with that if it's working. But when you start adding other treatments into it while you're in this early stage,
I've
you don't
been
know
saying this for
if it's
20-some
contributing.
years. I'm not a fan of the kitchen sink approach. I think what Joe is saying is absolutely correct. I normally would suggest when someone's starting medical treatment or drug therapy, to start with one product at a time. But the consensus amongst most prescribing physicians, and also what you're seeing in these subscription companies, is to use both topical minoxidil and oral finasteride synergistically. Everyone does that. I've never been a fan of that, precisely for what Joe is saying. But now you've already started. You're doing well.
Yeah.
I would not fuck with it at all. And exosomes are going to be there. And I just saw that Dr. Anderson wrote in the chat that, in his office, and he's using a company that I know relatively well, their exosomes. I mean, he's getting 7 out of 10 patients are seeing, significant or a good amount of regrowth, which is great. That's significant. But you're still young. You're 27 years old. You can wait till you're 28 to get the exosomes.
Mm-hmm. 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 What about microneedling with the minoxidil?
Dude, why? You're already telling me you're getting good results, and you just started medication. Okay. Why not just wait to see what your results are going to be?
Okay.
More is not better. When it comes to this game, less is more. I promise you, less is more. More is only more when you need more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Less is more. Okay. I take 5 milligrams of finasteride every 4th or 5th day. I used to take it once a week. Every doctor that I would speak to would be like, how it doesn't work. Finasteride has a shorter half-life. The reality is once your DHT is lowered, once you're basically load up on this drug, kind of like taking anabolics. Joe knows all about that. Once you load up on this drug, your DHT level essentially doesn't go back to baseline for about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. So you can kind of the half-life, even though it's relatively short, the drug could be out of your system for a few days, and your DHT level is really not moving. So once it's set for a while, it's set for a while. And every time you take that dose, intermittent dosing, it keeps your DHT level at a point where. Or it blocks the 5-alpha reductase enzyme enough to keep your DHT level at a relatively consistent level. So I've been doing that for a very long time. So if I need to take more medication at some point, I have a lot of wiggle room. So I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. I've noticed some change in my hair. I went through a somewhat of a telogen maybe about 2 years ago, and so I upped my dosage a little bit, and things have kind of leveled off. But you want to leave room to be able to utilize the medication for as long as possible so that if you are starting to, say you maintain your hair on this dosage of minoxidil and finasteride for 5 years, you may need to do something else in another 5 years. That's when exosomes may be helpful, or adding oral minoxidil or whatever. But just give yourself a chance to let this work for you, and then you can make a decision. Exosome treatment is going to be there for you.
Okay.
All right, man. I hope you understand our philosophy. I know that you want more right now. You want to fix it, but you already are on the you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for taking the call.
All right, man. Good luck.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
All right. He's going to get exosomes next week.
Yeah, he's getting exosomes and PRP after
and
that.
PRP. Whatever, Look, I do my best.
God bless him.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? What's up, caller?
Hey,
That's you.
Hi. Hey, how you doing? My name is James, and I'm from New York.
Hey, James from New York. What's going on?
Hey, not much. So I'm pretty new to your channel, but not really new to hair transplant research.
How'd you find us?
I think I've known of your guys' names, like just being on the forums and whatnot, and I've seen you guys on YouTube, but I haven't gone through a lot of like the YouTube videos because they are pretty long. But I'm new to it now, and you guys doing this show, so I figured I would call in and kind of give my my situation here.
Sure. What's up?
Okay. Yeah, it's awesome.
30 yeah. So 30 years old. Been doing my research and going on consultation since about 2018. So I've done my due diligence to this point. I'm at a point now where I can make a decision on surgery if I'd like. I feel like I know enough about the industry, but I'm still skeptical. I see so many, horror stories on the forums. I hear you guys talk about, the negatives.
I'm going to say one thing. If you're getting a lot of information from the forums, you need to be skeptical because you're going to get negative information, but you're also going to get positive information that could be misinformation. It could be anonymous people who are essentially selling surgery in their own anonymous, forum-y way. These forums, and honestly, I have a forum, they're some of the most ruthless, just dirty fucking places, man, you could ever imagine. And if you spend enough time in the forums, you probably know that to some degree.
And I'll add to that even negative reviews or negative information that you might be reading could also be BS designed to slander and disparage a competitor. Like every opportunity for someone to gain a leg up in this industry will be seen on a forum. So don't forget that. Like there's some good and bad on both sides.
All right. So with that being said, what would you say is the most reliable source as far as getting reliable information? So I can even give you a rundown of some of the surgeons I've consulted with. Do you take their word and run with it, or do you stay on these forums and look for these outside sources of information before you go ahead and make a decision?
Here's the thing. You're asking what the most reliable source is. We could easily say it's us. We try to be the most reliable source out there because we're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly of what's going on. But really, in the end, you have to make this decision based on the research that you've done and your gut. And also, you want to, if you're really interested in having surgery, you have to not just have online consultations. You want to meet with the physician if possible. You want to see who their staff is. You want to possibly meet with patients who've had surgery. There's a lot of due diligence that people just don't do because it's hard to do. So you can tell us who you've had consultations with. You can tell us whatever you want to tell us, but there's no one resource where you're going to be able to get all the information that you really need to make this life-changing decision. There's great starting points.
I'll add to that, having worked in clinics for 11 years, even when you're talking to a clinic and you're asking, most likely, you're educated, so you're most likely asking intelligent questions. When a clinic is telling you what they feel is the right answer to your question, and they may honestly believe that, you need to understand something very, very important that no one has ever realized, much less talked about. They're telling you from their perspective, which is a very closed, protected bubble. And I say this because I know that the clinics that are operating today...
You were in that bubble for a while.
Yeah, I was in that bubble.
Yeah.
I'm a reformed bubble resident.
Reformed bubble boy.
But I'm a reformed bubble boy. When you're in that environment of working for a clinic, inside the clinic, working as a consultant or even if you're a doctor in a clinic, you see things from other clinics that help you to form an opinion about what you're doing. But the takeaway from this is that clinics that see patients from other patients or patients from other clinics, are only seeing
the bad stuff.
The bad stuff from these clinics. So when they see a patient from the clinic that says, they're doing their surgery this way, and they come into a clinic for an evaluation on their result and talk about quote unquote repair, then that clinic is like, yeah, see, this validates what we're doing because he's coming to us to fix the work of this other clinic. That makes no sense for a basis of self-reflection and evaluation on what you're doing, because these same clinics also have their own screw-ups that those other clinics are looking at and saying the exact same thing. And it's a very competitive industry. Like you very rarely see clinics sharing information. You never see clinics speaking well of each other if they're in the same local market. It doesn't happen. I won't say it doesn't happen. Occasionally, it probably could. But the most that you'll see in most cases is a hesitancy to speak ill of a local doctor because they want to remain professional, but you will run across clinics that will talk up a bad game about the guy down the street.
So let's get to this guy's questions.
The point of this is that you need to take what the clinic is telling you and what you're reading online and find that midpoint that makes sense to you. Question everything. Right. If someone tells you that, oh no, this doesn't, like, say if they say minoxidil doesn't work, ask them why. It's a fair question.
Yeah.
If they can give you a good answer, well, okay, then we've seen too many patients where it doesn't work and they have too much of a shed and it causes problems for surgery and their hair is too greasy. That's legitimate. Right. I get that. That's my own personal experience working with patients. So you need to ask them why they come to this conclusion, and then use your own common sense to see if it jives for you. That's one way to look at it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've definitely taken a combination of, these guys in the forums input and also the doctors themselves. I thought about getting off the forums completely because, I'm talking, we're talking since 2018 where I've been back and forth with this info. So I'm at a point now where it's either I just book a surgery date or I just hold off completely.
Well, let's hear about the information that you have. Let's hear what you're working with,
sure.
Maybe who you've had consultations with, and what you've come away with so far.
Okay, so initially, so I'm from New York. I visited my very first consult was with an FUT doctor in New York.
Fella.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Right.
I was very close. I was very sold on the FUT, right? I was very sold on you get more grafts that way. You can maximize your lifetime grafts. Two big strips totaling, 5,000 plus some FUE around it. You get 7,000 total grafts. You'll get coverage front to back in the event they become a Norwood 6, which that is my future pattern for sure. I was sold on that. Almost booked it until I got on the forums and started doing more research. I see a lot of good results with FUE mega sessions and whatnot. Not mega sessions outside the donor area, but, guys that are Norwood 5, 6 is getting great results with FUE alone. So I kind of backed off on the whole FUT idea. Now I've been focused on FUE because I have a pretty robust beard as well. So I've been doing my research going further has just been focusing on, FUE in Norwood 6s, right? I'm not a Norwood 6 currently. My frontal third, without a doubt, needs work. It's kind of beyond, beyond.
Did you say that you were on medication yet? Did you tell us that?
Yeah, I've tried topical Finasteride. Yeah, no oral Finasteride, but I've been on.
Why not? Are you just concerned about adverse side effects?
For the most part.
Okay.
I truly believe that. It's not something I believe, but I would like to know if my donor could provide what I would be.
If you're going to be a Norwood 6, if you're destined to be a Norwood 6, we don't know. No one has a crystal ball. But if you're destined to be Norwood 6, you're very limited as far as your FUE, having all FUE grafts moved. People don't fully recognize the reality of that. And they see these larger sessions, and they see people who are young, relatively young, who have really good outcomes from great FUE surgeons who are able to move 5,000 or 6,000, or there's these, these mega sessions, and 10,000 grafts at a time or whatever. And some of these guys are really good at what they do. But you also have a future. Your future without medication isn't bright, my man, unless genetically you're not going to progress. So,
right. But I also have fairly realistic. I'm sorry. I also have fairly realistic expectations, and I know that's like usually one of the first questions that you ask a potential patient is what, do you have realistic expectations? And I do. I'm not asking for a full dense crown at the end of the day. Sure. If I can get 10, 15% density in the crown, I'm cool with that. So when I say full coverage, I think a lot of people on the forums and, surgeons and other people that hear this, they think that I need 50 grafts per centimeter in my
That's exactly what a lot of people think.
That's what most people would think. But I'm thinking about something that's conservative for Norwood 6 to depend.
100%.
Yeah, but to depend on all FUE, and you really believe you're going to be in Norwood 6, there is a chance that some of the hair that's going to be moved either in the hairline, depending on where that hair is taken from. If it's not taken from that sweet spot, from your mostly DHT-resistant hair that's going to be DHT-resistant for a longer period of your life, then anything goes. All bets are off. If it's taken slightly above or slightly below, if it's taken from parts of the nape, which they do all the time, which I think is a huge mistake because 90% of people are going to have some degree of retrograde alopecia, even if they don't have really significant male pattern hair loss at an older age.
Right.
So that hair is going to be diminished. So
yeah,
you're looking at a relatively temporary, even in the best hands, hair transplant.
Yeah.
That could last a decade, maybe 15 years. So to get back to your consultation with Dr. Feller or Bloxham, whoever you went to, they're not wrong in describing, the reality of a strip as well.
Yeah. So
that's what I was thinking.
So kind of going forward from there, since then I've been pretty locked in on FUE research, and a lot of the forum members say you have to get outside the U.S. and consult with outside European nation clinics and eugenics and this and that. So luckily, I don't know how I was able to do this, but I met with Dr. Sethi from eugenics when he came to New York. I made that happen somehow. And I also somehow made it happen that I met with Dr. Basanga in Maryland a few months back.
Good
So
for you.
Good for you. Yeah, well done.
I thought that those were two things that I would never be able to do because I wasn't flying to India for a consult and I wasn't flying to Belgium for one either. So got the green light from both of them. Supposedly my donor, going from Dr. Basanga, they're very analytic. He took out the microscope, cut the hair, looked into my donor. Bottom line is, based on his assessment, 7,000 total FUE grafts from my scalp. Very limited, like 0% miniaturization currently in my donor.
How old are you?
And my 31.
31. Okay.
So no miniaturization in my donor as of right now. 80 grafts per square centimeter is the average, is my donor density. So with his calculations, I left there with an estimate of 7,000 total scalp, plus, whatever they can get from the beard, 1,000, 2,000, whatever works. I have a pretty thick, coarse beard. So I left with that feeling pretty good.
You should.
But also at the same time, yeah. So I don't know if, do I proceed now knowing that, knowing that I'm going to be in Norwood 6, and I do plan on going conservative with the hairline. I'm okay with, low density in the crown, knowing these numbers, 7,000 plus maybe 1,500 beard. Is that enough to, to cover hairline to crown with, under these circumstances?
Here's
I
the
don't
thing.
want to start if I'm going to end up in a...
What Basanga is going to do is he's going to provide you with, appropriate procedures moving forward. So he's not taking that 7,000 grafts, I'm sure. Those are lifetime grafts that he's looking at. And as you progress, or if you progress, he's going to continue to, he's a relatively young guy. So, if you decide to go with him, he can probably be your surgeon for many years. And, as things change, his assessment may change. You may end up starting to miniaturize the donor in 5 years or in 10 years. Right now, you have a very strong donor, which is great because you're not a kid. You're 31. It's young. But, if you were destined to progress to a Norwood 6, Normally, I would say that your donor would probably be a little bit more, just based on my experience. I'm not a doctor. Your donor may be showing a little bit more miniaturization by now, and it's not. So that's a positive thing. But even though you're not in your 20s, you're still young. So you're still only 31. So you don't know what's going to happen at 40. So if you're willing to know that, all right, if you're going straight FUE, if you're comfortable with the fact that you can never get 100% of your sweet spot once you go FUE first, if you're good with that, and you're good with his assessment that you have 7,000 FUE grafts for your lifetime, then it's possible that you're going to come away with a nice long-term result. But it's going to be graduated steps. It's going to be 1 or 2 procedures till you get to a point where you're really happy, and then you may maybe another 5 years before you have another procedure. Does that make sense, Joe, what I'm telling this guy?
It makes sense, but I'm still thinking about earlier on in the conversation. You said that because you have a thick beard and you want to consider FUE for that, that's why. Well, you didn't say that's why, but then you said so. Then I started considering FUE instead of FUT, and I didn't quite see how those dots connected, because why not still get an FUT and then if you want to.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then if you want to still utilize FUE, you can take from the scalp, and you can still utilize the beard, if that makes sense for future transplantation.
I guess. Yeah. So that's a good point. That's where I initially was in the beginning of my research. You max out FUT, go into FUE plus the beard. Maybe maximize everything. But when I sat with Basanga and I brought that to his attention, he was saying, well, why take a strip if we can get what you need by FUE plus beard? Like,
I'll tell you why I take a strip.
You won't need to do a strip.
I'll tell you why I take a strip. Because what Spencer was talking about with the sweet spot for the hair, but the reason why, and some doctors don't like it when I talk about this, but when you are doing FUE on a high Norwood like you will eventually become, or even low Norwoods, doesn't matter. Every graft that's being taken out, every follicular unit that's removed reduces your donor density on a 1-to-1 ratio for how many are removed. So if you have 6,000 grafts taken from your donor region via FUE, depending on the distribution, that's how much thinner your entire donor zone is going to be. 6,000 grafts thinner. With FUT, if you were to get 6,000 grafts over 2 surgeries, they're only coming from a very specific area, and assuming good healing on the donor area and everything is hunky-dory and happy, the rest of your donor area has not been compromised. What was that? Has not been compromised for density the same way with FUE. It doesn't mean that it's going to be like this moth-eaten wasteland, but it won't be the same with so many grafts taken out as far as the density goes. And I've seen some phenomenal turnarounds for advanced Norwood cases where they've had 8,000 grafts removed via FUE. Some cases where I thought anyone would be a fool to take on this kind of case, and it's turned like the patient's really happy, and in these cases. And sometimes I'm thinking to myself, it's not exactly what I'd do. I'd be happy with it, but it is what it is. The guy's happy, he got a lot of hair, but the donor area is always thinner. So that's why in cases like yours, if you're going to do something like this, and I got a follow-up question after this, I don't understand the logic of dismissing. I'm not talking about you, but if any doctor that understands FUT automatically dismisses it out of hand just because it's FUT, I don't agree with that approach. I think that you should at least consider it again, revisit that by talking to some doctors that have more experience with FUT. And then if they are telling you also FUE, you need to do something very telling. Look at the price discrepancy between their FUT and their FUE. if it's significant, if it's like 20% to 50% more for FUE, then that is another way that you can say to yourself, are they in a bubble? Are they in a bubble with their advice?
Well, is it
financially motivated?
There's also a bubble as far as you have to understand that because the demand for FUE has been essentially created by the consumer. A lot of physicians are no longer really offering FUE. They don't have the infrastructure that they once had, or they've
FUT.
I'm sorry, FUT. Thank you. They kind of almost either if they did have the infrastructure, they've kind of diminished that infrastructure where they really want to focus on FUE because that is where the demand is. And I think that does patients a tremendous disservice, especially if they are going to be high Norwoods and they want, and they're young and they're starting young. Now, when you have strip surgery, there's always a possibility of having a bad strip. There's always a possibility of having a bad scar. There's always a possibility of nerve damage. There's always a possibility of, of different complications that come with removing a piece of your fucking scalp from your head. That, and then suturing it together. That's very real.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But in just doing this for over 25 years, I can tell you some of the best cases I've ever seen have been a hybrid for people who are going to be high Norwoods, 5, 6, 7s, and they want long-term results. Having the ability to remove 100% of your sweet spot donor area in 1 or 2 strips without really changing the integrity of your scalp or your donor gives you so many more options in the long run. But with that said, I also understand the psychology behind not wanting to get your fucking head cut open. I get that, And so I have to, we're just here to give you the reality and, information based on the information that we've garnered over the last 20 some odd years being in this and speaking to so many patients. Dr. Prasang is great at what he does, and he's a great guy. And he's an honest guy. But Joe was mentioning something earlier about being in a bubble. And everyone has kind of become and gotten into their own bubble. He trained with John Cole. John Cole, who was originally doing strip, is now has decided early on that he's going to focus 100% of his efforts on FUT. And that's how he trained all the physicians who he trained. And in John Cole's estimation, doing FUT is very damaging to the integrity of a person's scalp and should never be done. I'm not a doctor. I've never cut anybody open, but I can tell you that I've seen a lot of guys who've had great FUE over the years and have had great, hybrid procedures, and their scalp, while yes, it does change the integrity of your scalp has laxicity. So, what can I tell you? I mean, I get where you're coming from. I understand why you would start to look down the 100% FUE route. And there's really nothing wrong with that, but you are a little bit more limited. And in some cases, a lot more limited.
Yeah, I think with hearing that the quality of my donor and the amount of potential grafts that I have in the sweet spot, and I mean, I know you said the sweet spot is at the center, but he took into account the dip of my crown.
Mm-hmm.
He did the measurements going underneath that dip, not necessarily going all the way down to the nape, kind of measured from the temple.
He would never go to, he's one guy that talks about retrograde all the time. So the measurements that he took, if you're having really good measurements taken, by Christian Prasanga, you have 7,000 grafts that can be moved. The problem is, what is that going to end up looking like? How long is that going to take to move? And in 6 or 7 years, is he going to have the exact same assessment for you? Because you never know if your donor is going to start to miniaturize.
Right. And how much, right? You talk about these grafts potentially not lasting 10, 15 years. If let's say my donor miniaturizes by, 10, 15%, I mean, the worst case scenario is just the transplanted hairs up top just start to thin out a little bit.
Yeah.
like I'm going to lose my hairline. You know, so it'll gradually just thin, which is fine. You know, if I'm in my 50s, my hair starts to look like it's thinner. Like, I'm okay with the aging process. Going back to, like, you know, kind of the same thing I said before, like, my expectations are real.
And that's
realistic,
part of doing your due diligence. The fact that you understand that this is a possibility, that you're going to go in with your eyes wide open, that all of this stuff is possible, and it's also possible that you're going to go to one of the best doctors in the world, in my opinion. You know, he's really great at what he does, and you can end up with a not so great outcome because that's just the way cosmetic surgery is. So as long as you're aware of all of this, then you know you're one of the guys who've called the program that I believe has done a lot of good due diligence so far.
Yeah, I've done a lot, and Eugenics was the other guy that I met with in New York that was kind of similar. He didn't take measurements. It was just kind of like a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Looked at my scalp, whatnot. He's a very confident guy. Said no problem. Same exact numbers for the most part. Said my beard is great, my donut is great. Fly out. I got these guys calling me every other 2 days. I'm out there.
Really?
So, yeah, like I guess like the people that
trying to sell you a transplant.
Tell me more.
Yeah, the advice.
Seriously, tell me more. So you had the consultation, and how long ago was that?
It was like he came to New York, and we met. This was I don't know,
more like a seminar. Yeah.
We kind of just met like in the city, and there was maybe like four of us.
Yeah.
And we literally just like got food.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's like old school. It's like the old school like New Heart hair clinics. They meet and greet. They get like a hotel room or they do something, and they just kind of sit down and bullshit with you.
Yeah, and I felt like I couldn't miss it because it's him, and I see these.
No, of course.
The guy from Ireland.
Yeah,
all
of
these
course.
grafts, and I see he's got the Norwich 6 patterns. Like, I gotta go see this guy.
I was smart.
So I went with that.
Yeah, of course, you should have.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm interested in how long ago was this? What month was it? I remember when he was in New York. I just don't remember when exactly. Was it over the summer?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It was.
All right. So since that meeting, how many times have they contacted you as a follow-up?
Dozens.
Like,
yeah.
Joe, you keep telling me, man. You keep telling me that I'm wrong about this situation, and I'm not.
I know nothing. I hear nothing. Okay.
These guys are churning and burning, man. These guys are selling transplants. Now, granted, they, both Pradeep and Erica are part of the IHRS, and I recommend them highly. But I don't see how they can be doing so many how many doctors do they have now working for them?
I don't know.
I don't know, but, I guess my information was when I was through WhatsApp, you send your inquiry and your photos, so they have my phone number. So I get phone calls from India pretty often, just so could we discuss your...
I gotta laugh. Listen, all I can say is that they produce really good work.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a great idea for any clinic to be, desperately trying to sell hair transplants or kind of working like, cold callers in a call center.
I mean, I get that that's business, but, I haven't shown massive interest, after the consult.
Yeah.
I'm still doing my research, like once I come to a conclusion, like I'll call you.
Well, I think you made your decision, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just didn't realize it. No.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a final question real quick. So you're talking about finasteride. You're not taking it. Where is your hair loss now? Yeah,
so right now, every consult that I've gone to, they're recommending 2,500 grafts for the frontal third. I can use the grafts there. My hairline is just like, it's, my corners are recessed. The center is fairly combable. I use Topic in the front. I can pull up a decent look, but it's on its way out. The frontal third definitely is something that I would do first. Mid scalp is still okay. It is miniaturizing, and then my crown is probably like 25% density currently. So I use some Topic back there. I'm able to pull it off. So it's not terrible. With Topic, I'm able to still.
What do the doctors say to you about being on medication?
Some recommend it. Some say it's it is what you don't have to take it. It doesn't affect surgery.
That's bullshit.
It is. Well, it doesn't affect surgery.
It doesn't affect the surgery.
It affects how many surgeries you have in the future
and your outcome.
Exactly. So my follow-up question is, like you said, you can get away with it now. So when are you planning on pulling the trigger for surgery? Or is this just ongoing until the point when you decide that you do need it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, I'm just waiting for the confidence to say, you know what, I have enough grafts where once my mid and my crown fully go, I'm good. I'm just waiting for some type of inner push personally to say, okay, like, you got enough info, you have the grafts in your donor bank, you have a good beard, get the frontal third taken care of, 2,500 grafts in the front, you'll be good for another 7 years, and then down the line, go back into your donor bank and address the mid and the crown, and 2-3 surgeries and I'm done.
So, final question: have you considered other medication like oral minoxidil, topical finasteride, a mix of both, anything like that? Yeah,
but for what though? Like just to hold on to the back half. To prolong the second surgery
for hanging on to what you have to having more hair fill in medically instead of surgically. Like, anything's possible. You find the right medical combination. It could just be one thing. It could just be oral minoxidil. That could be enough for you. It could just be topical finasteride where you don't have an issue with side effects as opposed to oral finasteride.
The overall look of your transplant can be so significantly impacted if you take medication. I mean, in such a profound way. So it's kind of like, there are people out there that, and I don't know if you're, if this is your philosophy, but it's like, oh, well, why take medication if I'm going to have surgery anyway? Medication also preserves your donor.
Mm-hmm. But more importantly, the reason why I was asking that is, and I've seen this many times, so has Spencer, where you do find some sort of medical regimen that works for you, and you actually have a turnaround of your hair loss to the point where it's good enough, and you don't need to actually go and have surgery. Or if you do have surgery, you actually need less hair for the surgery than before you started taking medication because you had just that much more regrowth. It can make a huge difference. I've seen cases where the assessment was 5,000 grafts in one surgery, but they weren't on medication. They come back a year later, the assessment is 2,500 grafts because they had such a turnaround in the crown and the interior mid scalp. They just needed a hairline. It can be that much of a difference, which means ultimately you're saving not just money, you're saving your donor hair in case things take a turn for the worse. So if it were me, I would examine all non-surgical routes first before I hit that level of actually saying yes to surgery. You got some great options for surgery. That's not an issue. Bazenga's great. Obviously, Sethi is great, and Bansal, they're great. I think the world of them all. I don't even work with Bazenga, but I think he's fantastic. But you owe it to yourself to prevent yourself from getting cut as much as possible, and that's through medical therapy. Finding a way that works for you before you.
I think I would dabble. I think I would dabble with more medication, mainly for the mid and back. I definitely need a new frontal third though. Like, there's nothing like medication can't bring back loss in the front. So I think I would consider getting back on meds just to prolong the second surgery. But my overall point was I needed to confirm through my consults that in the event that I at some point stop taking meds or they stop working, is my donor strong enough to compensate for the loss? Without
I understand
meds,
that.
So
well,
I look
Basonga's
at,
a very, I would
look
tell
at
you,
this-
the assessment that Basonga gave you, I mean, the way that he made the assessment, the way that you described it, and just from what I know of him, he's a really honest guy, and he's really good at what he does. And, Dr. Seti was able to make, a similar assessment without doing all the measurements, but, you can get good work done by him as well. But the fact that you actually had legit measurements taken, and they knew exactly how much, kind of like building a deck, I always say. If you don't know how much wood you have, you really, how do you start to build a deck? Or if you don't know how much, of that wood is rotting away. And he said that you have a very strong donor that's not miniaturizing to a very high level. So, I think you could be pretty confident moving forward if you decide to go that route, at least with the information that you have right now. But we just wanted to give you all of the options and the reality of if you decide to go this route and you go all FUE, you are limiting yourself to a certain degree. If you're okay with that and you're totally all in on that and you go in with an open eyes, then that's all that we're trying to do. But I think anyone, and I'm not a doctor, who's considering surgery should always consider being on medication. And that's, you just said that you would consider it. So, I think you have all the information you need. How much more research can you do? I think you've done a lot of really great research. And I think maybe this is your, the fact that you decided to call the show and talk about what you've already been doing, I think is, that was pretty valuable for you as well. So I also think it's valuable for people who are listening. A lot of people make their decisions just based on forums, just based on interacting with people, either through DMs or, whatever. And they're not always getting the full picture.
Yeah.
Full picture is your
They hear
best
about it.
chance to get the most hair at an Norwood 6 is going to be a hybrid procedure. But if you're willing to say, all right, I don't need that, I can go this route, and I prefer to do all FUE, which I understand, then you have the information you need.
Yeah, and there's a decent amount of examples that show it. So
Yes. 100%. Well, look, now we're going to take another call. We're always here on Fridays if you want to continue the conversation. If you have any more questions, I hope we were able to help you to some degree.
absolutely, thank you so much.
Okay, man. Good luck.
Thanks for calling.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye-bye.
Yep, anytime. Take care.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's take another call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi there. It's Top Star here.
Top Star, what's happening, my man?
Top Star. Long time.
Yeah, long time now here. Yeah. 3 years now.
Wow.
1,200 grafts from Dr. Barty.
And?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And?
Yeah, he took me from a Don Johnson to a Ted Danson. And I'm still... I've got the full greaser rock and roll quiff.
So he took you from a Ted Danson to a Don Johnson, is what you're saying?
No, from a Don Johnson to a Ted Danson.
Oh, so you went backwards.
Yeah, it went down, low down, the rock and roll. I got the full sideboards. I got the greased. I grease the sides. That's the only product I use. Vitalis from El Paso, U.S. The famous U.S. brand El Paso,
Vitalis,
Texas.
Oh,
Vitalis.
okay.
Yeah, that's what ZZ Top and them use for their beards.
So what can we do for you, man?
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you about my recent decision.
What's that?
Let's hear it.
Not to get surgery for the crown.
All right.
Okay.
Tell us why you made the decision.
Good for you.
I prayed about it. I've been praying about it, and the Lord works in mysterious ways. And
Amen.
I want to thank Joe Tronick for his putting me on to. Right, this is serious. I want to thank Joe for putting me on to OGX.
OGX.
Remember that? Yeah, OGX.
I have no idea what that is.
The hairspray.
OGX.
OGX hairspray, bamboo and some other.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
the bamboo hairspray.
It's a miracle. You know why? Because like Spencer, I hated, for the little crown, because they quoted me 1,500, Dr. Barty. He said, you'll do the back 1,500 grafts on the crown. And I've got the money, and I was thinking, I'm going to go in March. And then I've got so many things. I've got so many things on my plate, and I just don't trust doctors anymore. I don't have any faith in them because of all the rest of it, and just going through all that traveling, and it's just, I mean, in the best of circumstances, maybe, but anyway, I only used, because I've got my hair, what I do is I shower. Okay, I don't wash my hair. I don't use any products. No deodorant. I bath once a week. I'm a dirty, stinky rock and roller. That's what I am.
Right on.
That's what I like to be, because your skin needs its natural. I don't believe in washing. I don't like going near water, so I just shower once a week.
I can appreciate that. Yeah. Okay.
You must be a real hit at the strip club.
I don't go to strip. I'm with the Lord now. I'm a rock and roller. I don't go down those routes. But anyway, I have a cold shower. This is my beauty when it comes to a cold shower for about 10 minutes, ice cold shower, and then I just pat it dry with a towel and I leave it completely swept back, because the front is I mean, credit to Dr. Barty, when he placed those grafts. As I said, Ted Danson, I mean, he's jealous of me. I mean, it's the hairline. I can sweep it back, and it's a Hollywood. I asked him for the Hollywood hairline, so it's like a movie star hairline. So when I went to the hotel the other day. There was some business thing there, and I had a cap on because it's cold and windy, So I got in the hotel, and there's all these mirrors. So I take off the cap, and I always go to the mirror just because the crown sides. I've got to grease them down and just sort of quiff it up a bit, because the cap sort of, plasters the hair down. So I was doing that, and the girl waitress comes up and says, "Oh yeah, what are you doing? Your hair's beautiful," and blah blah. So I said, "Oh no, I got to do, just tuck it behind the ears, just plaster the greased sides down a bit, just so you got to, so you don't look scruffy."
Right.
And and off I go. And the thing was, I was using, because I've grown this is a message to all those people. I'm 57, and I haven't been more confident about my hairline in my whole life. More than when I was 17, 19, 20, all those years of having the Don Johnson hairline. Now I can just walk in, and I'm like, it's, it doesn't. Having a hair transplant is not going to change your life in any way whatsoever. Believe me, you're not going to pull 20 women the next day or anything. You won't change your life. It'll make you feel, if they do a good job, it could make you feel, and that's a gamble. But I'll tell you about the problems I've had with it, what can go wrong, and I mean, I'm happy with it, very, very happy.
Well, you're telling me about the hairspray that you're using that I was talking about. So how are you using that? How has it helped you?
But what I do is, before I would use a spray, the not topic, but just it's the cheap stuff you get. You spray it on. It's a dry shampoo. It just colors the back of your head. And that works perfectly. But the problem with that is I hated it because it's itchy and it goes all over the pillow. And to get it out, because I'd only ever, like if you had to go on to a party or something, you could put it on. But to get it out, you got to wash your hair. And that just destroys it.
And you're not a hair washer.
And when I wash my hair, because my hair's fine, so when you wash it, it destroys that sort of thickness of the hair. Because my hair's got sort of two, like a schizophrenic, it's two split personality hairstyles. One is the thick, sort of ropey hair, and the other sort of fine blonde. So it goes from fine blonde to dark brown, ropey hair. So, so I can make a choice. So by not washing it, it stays as a ropey, thick, dark brown hair. So now what I do is if it's going to be windy, I just style my hair and then I spray it, and it holds that rock solid, concrete city. And it won't. I could walk around and I could walk in the pub or anything, and I know I don't have to go. Ooh, what's happening here? Do I have to go in the bathroom? I don't have to bother. So then the best thing to do with that is when you've sprayed it. So say it was a windy day, and I spray it. Then I have a shower, but I don't wash my hair or anything, and then I just leave it overnight. Like I don't blow dry or anything. It just pat it dry, and then when I wake up in the morning, it's all plastered back. But when I wake up in the morning, just get the old Afro comb out. I got the special comb from Spain. It's only a 3-prong. It's like a normal comb, but it's got the 3 prongs on the front. And then I just quiff it all up. But the comb over at the back of what they would quote it's quite a lot of hair loss on the back.
I'm really trying to let Joe handle this call.
And then I
letting the guy
cook
talk.
it all up.
Yeah.
And that hairspray makes it so thick, it looks like I've got a full head of hair without putting
So when
any
you
top
say
in.
that you've got the what's his name?
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson hair. He's got a good hairline, but he's thin behind it, and he uses fibers and hairspray to hide his hair loss. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't need fibers. I don't need any fibers because the hairspray with the comb over is like, because it's long.
You're brushing it back. It's not really comb over. Well, the comb over is usually referencing one side to the other, but you're doing it, brushing it back, and then that back brush covers the area that's thin.
Yeah,
and then you spray it with this hairspray, and it holds it for the whole night and into the next day. That's awesome.
But it holds it, but the whole front of the hair from the sort of top of the head forward is all proper hair.
Top Star, can you hear me?
Hair.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Matt?
So when I comb it back, it covers it.
Top Star.
It's got to be long. My hair's down to my chin. But
is my mic on, Joe?
But when
sounds like it is.
That hair.
Hey, Top Star, can you hear? Can you hear Spencer? Can you hear Spencer?
Yeah, I can hear him. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, man. I'm glad that you called in and that your hair transplant worked out. I really am.
I just got a thing to say about the hair transplant. So
Sure.
I just want to thank Joe for that, because I don't have to use any topic or concealer anymore. I just have to use
You're welcome. I'm glad that worked out. I really am. Like I didn't remember even talking about it, but you picked up on it, so I'm glad it worked out for you. Good for you.
Yeah, so just to anybody who's thinking about having because I decided that, maybe in 10 years I need those grafts. If I waste them on the crown, then what happens if, as Spencer's always on about, if it does, the mid and the frontal area does thin or recede, whatever, I got those grafts in hand.
That's right. And,
and
the whole idea is to keep your frontal hairline, your mid-anterior scalp have enough hair to style what you do.
Yeah.
Don't waste those grafts, man. Listen, man, we're going to take another call. I'm glad that things worked out for you.
Just one other little thing I just wanted to ask. When I went for the surgery, only in the sunlight and in normal light, you wouldn't notice it. But just in a certain bathroom light, I wondered. I just don't understand why it happened. There's three things I think that could have been the cause of it. When they placed the grafts, they didn't put them in deep enough, so that there's little bumps.
So you have a little cobblestoning
or tenting.
Yeah,
or tenting.
They're not in, they're out. They're raised, but only in a certain light. That's what I'm saying would be the only thing you wouldn't sort of pick up only in a specific light.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. What that is when the like some clinics will place the hairs a little bit higher than flush with the scalp, with the idea that some of the tissue that's just above the plane of the scalp will dry up and fall off, so that you don't have any sort of pitting where it's placed too deep. You don't have any sort of cobblestoning where there's excessive scar tissue forming around it. But it also has to do, like the condition that you're talking about, it also has to do with how you heal. Like it just may be the way that you reacted to the procedure where all these tiny incisions were made. But sometimes it just comes down to a difference in technique between clinics. So as far as like...
what happened was the night he gave me too many sleeping tablets, and when you're supposed to sleep raised with your head raised and all that. But I went to sleep on my side, and I woke up. My head was half hanging off the bed, So, and I had a lot of bleeding. Do you think because
had nothing to do with that? No.
Because I thought maybe they popped a bit, no. But then on the 14th, after 2 weeks, they said, "Oh, you got to, wash your hair with the shampoo, and then scrape the scabs off wet." But I didn't do that. I waited 2 weeks, and then I just rubbed them off dry. Could that be?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe,
I doubt it. Bad month to stop drinking, though. I'll tell you.
It really is, and it's a lesson where, because you're even questioning that your own method may have influenced it. It didn't, but it's a lesson to everyone listening to this that you need to follow your clinic's directions. Just you need to. Always follow. Never take it into your hands. Like, you invested the time to fly to India. You went to India to have a hair transplant, but then when you're done and you get home, you want to do things your way as opposed to how they told you to do things.
Yeah, no,
not the best move. Yeah, or you get the point. You went there. You traveled all the way there to have the surgery, but then you want to do the post-op care the way that you want to do it. Not the best move. Like, it ultimately didn't cause any problems, but it could have. It could have.
Look, we're going to take another call, but I don't think he wanted to do that. I think he just said he took too many sleeping pills and he fell off the fucking bed. It wasn't that purposely.
No, he was talking about how he didn't rub the scabs off when he was told to, or something like that.
Oh.
But
all right,
anyway,
brother, listen, man, thank you for the call. We're going to take another call before we get...
How would I improve that look? Because somebody said if you shave it or something.
Spencer?
You can't improve it.
Yeah.
That's the way that it is, and I'm sure that most people would never notice it. And you're going to see, when you're in a certain light in the bathroom, you're going to see certain things at certain angles. But in the daylight and in normal light, no one's going to see it.
No, it's all
That's
cool.
the truth.
No, but
that's the truth.
It's a good, people, even if you're happy, nothing's perfect with these hair transplants.
That's sometimes
Well
that is
said.
the case. All right, brother, we're going to go. I got to hang up. We're going to take another call. Thank you so much, man.
Okey-doke.
Good luck.
Thanks for taking my call, and
You got it.
cheerio.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Let's see who this is.
Got another call?
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello.
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 Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank God you called.
Oh, and I'm following Top Star. I'm following Top Star. That's a tough act to follow.
What's happening?
It really is. But do your best.
This is. I'll keep it short. I don't want Rob Hellner to next me. So it's this is Sasha in New Jersey again.
Hey, what's happening?
I'm the guy that called
Hey,
last
Sasha.
week who told Spencer Joe Tillman's addition to the show helped legitimize it, in my opinion. But
Yeah, I remember you, motherfucker.
Sasha, привет. Привет.
So actually, one thing I wanted to say, I listened to this, I listened to the show again because I'd missed some of it. And Spencer, your story about the guy, the lawyer who had bad work done, I think, and he ended up driving a potato chip truck.
Yeah,
that was brutal. I think those are good stories to share, though.
Oh yeah.
Especially nowadays. Perusing the forums, especially in.
I wish Joe had some stories like that to tell, but I guess he doesn't.
But
They're all about
that
me.
was a great. That was a great story.
Problems I've had.
Thanks, man. So what's up?
And also, Joe, your video on DJ, the Keratin Brotherhood guy, the American in South Korea, that was really good. That was great. That was, I've been following his channel. I've been watching his videos over the last couple of years, and that was a definitely interesting story review that you did. That was good. I think
Rob
the guy-
Hellner
if
just
anybody-
gave you the next caller, man.
And then he said LMAO.
That's right. One thing I wanted to pick your brains about is Asian hair loss. I'm actually Filipino, and there's not a lot of Asian presence in the at least English speaking hair forums. There seems to be this persistent myth that Asians don't really lose their hair or go bald,
It's racism.
or they are
Straight up.
or there's
Straight up, yo.
You could say that. And I that's one thing I noticed a repeating theme in the forums, that people seem to think Asians don't bald, which is like laughable. And especially when you dig a little deeper, you see this. It's quite a growing industry, especially in China, and people who have looked at the South Korean market, it's big. Joe, what is your?
It's huge.
What is your
The
observation?
Asian and the Chinese hair market, everything in hair is from China.
It's huge.
And hair pieces in China are huge, not just being made but being worn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people seem to don't realize just the how extensive that is, especially in South Korea. But Joe, in your experience working in Vancouver, at Hassan and Wong, did you see a lot of Asian patients? What was your observation? Because then there are some general themes with balding and different ethnicities, right? My observations and what I've learned over the years, I feel like East Asians and Southeast Asians tend, they don't seem to lose hair as aggressively early on, but it does seem to be a bit delayed. When you look at older Japanese or very older Koreans, it seems like they catch up. But did you ever notice patterns or anything from your experience?
Well, we had in the Vancouver area, you got to understand the demographics here. There are like in my neighborhood of my suburb of about 200,000 people. As a pasty white guy, I'm in the minority. Chinese everywhere. Some Koreans, some Japanese. But then another suburb, half an hour away, it's Southeast Asians everywhere. So as a clinic, we were unique in that we had a large proportion of our patient base were Asian, but oddly, the East Asian demographic was not represented nearly as much as the Southeast Asian demographic, and I think a lot of that has to do with the cultural aspect, because I can't count how many times I've heard someone say, "I'm getting married next year, and I have to have hair," because in the Indian culture or the Southeast Asian culture, I mean it's throughout Asia, but in Southeast Asia, man, you got to have your hair. Ain't no two ways about it. You got to have your hair. And they would tell me, I don't give a shit what I look like 2 years from now, but in 1 year I'm getting married, I need to have hair. So what can you do for me? I can't count how many times I heard that. When it comes to you're talking about the degree of hair loss at a younger age. Southeast Asians, a lot of them lose a lot of their hair, not just on top, but I remember thinking at one point where if I saw that, like I'd see the consultation coming in, I'd see the name, I would automatically start thinking about the probability of them having diffused hair loss in the donor area. Much more common, in my experience, in Southeast Asian patients compared to anyone. East Asians, Caucasians, you name it. But as far as the East Asian representation, there weren't a lot. There weren't a lot. And a lot of the cases that came through were not surgical candidates. And a lot of that also has to do with the fact that because of the hair, how it grows on a lot of East Asians, it exits the scalp in the donor region at almost a 90-degree angle, which is unusual. So even at longer lengths of, say, a full centimeter, you could see straight into the scalp. You could see the scalp tissue, and that's not a very good baseline for a strip surgery, where you have to grow your hair a few inches before enough mass develops to where it weighs itself down and will start pointing towards your neck as opposed to the person behind you, right? So I don't know if you can see the camera. You'll see it in a few minutes if you're watching, but if you're looking at my hands pointing, you can still see my face because you can see the space in between my hands. But if I turn them a little bit, you can't see my face because the angle of the direction, or the direction of how I'm pointing them, covers my face.
That's your best
and
angle.
That's the way thank you very much. And so that's why a lot of Asians just they never made great FUT candidates to begin with, because of that issue alone. Forget about the higher propensity for keloidal scarring, which is higher in East Asians than Caucasians and even higher than in Southeast Asians. But yeah, I mean, it was...
Hair to skin contrast.
Yeah, exactly. All that. But when they were good candidates, and I'm talking about East Asians, they were really good candidates. Awesome hair texture to work with. You didn't have to go as dense to have a dense look because the hair shaft diameter is so much bigger than like a Caucasian. But there are also challenges with that kind of hair in making it look natural. So it's a lot more challenges on the minute scale that are cumulative over the course of a procedure to the final result. So, yeah, but as far as just the sheer numbers, fewer East Asians than any other kind of Asian, and fewer Asians in general across the board.
That's interesting.
Are you sure that wasn't the sign on the front door that said "No Asians"?
Well, aside from that,
okay.
I think that was a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. At least with Southeast Asians, I've seen the balding patterns that I've seen. I have seen a lot of the retrograde, and it always worried me about how does that affect your donor and ability to, exactly what you say, the ability to get a strip. And also, if I were to get, when I had done research on potential, hair transplant surgeons, and I'd always wondered, well, what about their experience with Asian hair? And then, is that something to consider? And I had thought about that.
It is. It is something to
And I
consider
thought about,
because
that's why one of the things I wanted to call in and ask you about. Yeah.
Asian hair is more difficult to work with. I remember talking to Dr. Wong and Dr. Hassan about this, where they were talking about how, in general, you got to be a lot more careful handling an Asian hair follicle because the hair shaft themselves can literally pop if you apply too much pressure. And I remember cases where they're coming out of the OR, they're like, damn, like what the hell's going? Why there's so many of these grafts? Like they expect it to. When I say pop, I don't mean popping out of the scalp. I mean explode in the tweezers or in the forceps, or while they're applying pressure to it while they're cutting them. It's hard to explain over the air, but it's just physically more susceptible to damage. It's a much coarser hair, and so you have to have little tricks of the trade to keep it looking natural in the hairline, because you don't have fine hairs on most East Asians. You do on a lot more Southeast Asians, but in general, Asians don't have. You wouldn't expect finer hair on any sort of Asian. When you find it, you're surprised, and so it's more difficult to get that fine-haired hairline on Asian patients. And so there are tricks of the trade where you actually have to bring the density. You don't have that soft transition line or soft transition zone where it's bare foreskin into, or foreskin, where you don't have bare forehead into a hairline. It needs to go right up to the density needs to go right up to the front of that hairline where there is no soft transition zone. And it needs to be at a higher density for it to look natural. That's how you get around that pluggy look that you get with Asian hair if you have a low density. Even if it's a single hair graft properly prepared, better than any other graft that's ever been prepared, because it's alone, it can, that in and of itself can make it look pluggy. So you got to have a higher density right up to the front line.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've watched plenty of like Korean before and after videos, Korean surgeons, and like you do notice, at least with the hairlines that they show from like I guess a Western perspective, they do kind of look, they don't look refined, right? It's like, and I think part of that's probably the nature of the quality of the hair that they have to work with, and you don't see those like fine transition or baby hairs that are planted up front to give a transition. It's usually very
there is the possibility that the grafts are not refined well to begin with. I mean, it does also have to do with the skill of the clinic, because they could still be using just mini micrograft FUE where they're not using a microscope to refine and cut the grafts. It could just be they extract the graft. Oh, it looks like a single. Let's stick it in there, and then 8 months later, it's actually a double. So it could be that issue as well, because I don't know what clinics you've looked at. There are some really good clinics in Korea, make no mistake, but you got to keep that in mind when you're evaluating results and not think it's just due to the hair, the character of the hair. It could be the skill of the clinic itself. So, but in general, I know what you're talking about, and I agree with you.
Fair point. Well, now that you've told the story of the hair popping, then that's one more thing for me to worry about, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate your thoughts on that.
But a clinic needs to understand that, and if you talk to a clinic about this, most clinics will say, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Oh, you must have been talking to Joe, right? Because no one talks about this stuff.
And that is why the bald truth is now legitimate, Joe.
And it only took 7 years.
It only took...
or 25 years, yeah.
25 years. Rob Heldner wants another caller.
All right. Rob has spoken. It shall be done.
All right, brother.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.
Thanks for what you do.
I hope that helped.
That did. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Great
Bye-bye.
show.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. Last call of the night. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Oh, hey, it's John from the Bay Area. How you guys doing? You guys are my favorite radio show. Thank you for taking my call. Hey, I got a question. My first question is, can you tell me exactly what time? So I see different times on even your website. What time are you on every? It said you were on Tuesday at one time. Are you still on every Friday from 2 Pacific time?
It's
you obviously are not subscribed to my YouTube channel. Shame on you, because if you were subscribed and you ring the bell for all notifications, you would know the answer to this question.
Okay, well, I'm going to definitely do that. I apologize, Joe. I'm sorry. I should definitely. I've been on your website many times.
Busted.
So don't get me wrong. I've been on there. I've gone there. I read all your stuff. It's fantastic. But I look on the Wall Truth website. I mean, just when I Google it, and it says 2 o'clock, and it's at 5 o'clock.
Let's see what time. I'm on right now. Let's see what it says. It says Friday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. So you're right. I have to update that.
It's not been updated.
No.
It's not been that time since like 2015, I think.
It's not 2015. It's only been a year and a half since you changed the time, Joe.
Okay, I thought
That's since
I
the
just
Civil
went on there.
War.
One of them still says Tuesday. Okay, 2 o'clock. I just was going to be okay. Good.
That's
All right.
hilarious.
All right. Well, good. That's every Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, just to be sure. Okay, good.
No, it's every
Okay.
Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific. It was 2 p.m. Pacific. And then Joe said, can we do it later? I'm like, yeah, whatever you want, Joe.
I'm still hungover, too.
Okay, see, I was right. It
Yeah.
says 2 p.m. Pacific on there. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 3 p.m. Pacific. That's what I thought. Yeah, because I called. I thought, wow,
That's
you guys
awesome.
are staying up 3 hours. But okay. All right, I'm glad. Okay, good. 3 p.m. Pacific. Okay. All right, so I went.
Change
to
that
go
shit
to
right
the
now,
doctor.
yeah.
Okay. I went to see at Spencer's recommendation. I went to go and Joe. You guys both said he was one of the best here in the Bay Area. Dr. Rose. I had my consultation with Dr. Paul Rose, the famous, legendary Dr. Paul Rose, and at the Gladstone Clinic. I'll give the drop of the name.
And when did you have the consultation?
About 3 weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
I was going to call before, but I tried calling once.
Good timing.
After. But anyway, about 3 weeks ago. And so hey, you wait in there. I'll just kind of tell you how it went down. Man, he's got some sexy, pretty girls working for him. That's for sure. And and he used that too, because they come in first and they talk to you and they take a picture of you, your hair, and they talk to you, a young one, maybe in her early 20s, mid 20s or something, and then another one comes in. And then she talks. So he's got a couple of girls who come in. They talk to you. You fill out some papers. They take some photos, and then Dr. Rose pops in, right? Then he comes in. And, one thing I should just say for the record, I'm sure he's probably told you, I don't think there's any HIPAA protection or whatever, but he said that he's had 2 procedures, and they were a long time ago, and that he has no more donor hair. So he talked about his situation. And he's basically saying that he just likes to do 2,000. I think I heard this one time on the air before. He's very conservative. He'll do the strip for 2,000 grafts. That's what he said he wanted to do for me. He said that was $13,000. I was put the number out there, and he said the FUE is more, like 16 or 17,000, and that's what he likes to do. He just feels comfortable with that number. Maybe that was me based on his evaluation of me. He kind of looked at my scalp and did the elasticity kind of test, and then that's kind of what it was. And we talked a little bit about golf. He's a big golfer, so we talked about that. And he was just talking about it, and then he has this assistant with an accent. She's probably in her 50s, and she was talking to me, and that's kind of the way it was. I mean, that's what do you guys think? I mean, he said he could do. Was
she trying to? Was the assistant the one with the accent? Was she trying to close the sale?
Basically. Yeah, that's a good observation.
So here's the thing. Paul, and like we said, he's been around for a long time. He's really good at what he does. He is conservative / appropriate. And I am sure, I don't know what your exact situation is, but I'm sure he made a fair assessment. You also have to understand that he works for a company now. So you're all going to be dealing with like someone trying to close the deal and stuff like that. But that really has nothing to do with Paul as a surgeon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, she was very nice. She said, Here's my number. You could call me anytime. And then, sure enough, she followed up like a couple days ago because I went in there 3 weeks ago. She followed up with me, gave me a call. I haven't called her back. She left a message saying, if you have any questions, give me a call. She was very, very nice.
Of course.
And, of course, she was trying to flatter me and tell me how great I would look. Yeah. And tell me how great I would look.
Hang on. On the voicemail? On the voicemail, she said how good you look?
No, she said that in person. In person, she said
Okay.
that. In person. No, not voice. She just said, I'm checking in and call and follow up. And she was nice, and she was talking about it, and, I mean, she was very nice. They put, I'm just, 2000, and he goes, Dr. Rose was saying, look, the trick is to make it look as good as possible with as few grafts as possible, and that's what his goal is. And he thought, so, I mean, I know you don't have a picture of me or anything like that, but I'm wondering if, hey, this is what he likes to do, this is what he's comfortable with, would that be the best? I mean, is this about what he likes to do, or is this what he truly thinks would make me look as good? Because I only want to do this once, man. I'm in my early 60s. I do not want to do this.
That's not going to happen. It's not going to only be done once. So,
see, I don't want to.
If he already described to you that he's going to go in at once or twice, right? Is that what he said?
So he said once. He didn't say twice, though. He said once. I was just saying that I don't want to. My point, a bone of contention, my curiosity is, hey, did he say the 2,000 because that's all he wants to do? Is that all he has in him? He's a fairly older guy. I don't know. Or does he think that 2,000 is truly?
Well, why don't you get another have another consultation? You can do several online consultations. You can go to some people. Let's see, who else is local? Well, there's not really anybody local, but you can have some local. You can have some local consults with even physicians
that guy, Dr. Yip, or whatever his name is, over in the South Bay. I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
Dr. Deep.
Deep, yeah, Dr. Deep, yeah.
I mean, you could have a consultation with him. You can have a consultation with Sarah Wasserbauer. You can have a consultation with, just so you can get an assessment without saying who you've had consultations with, and then come away with all these assessments and see what makes sense. If 3 out of the 4 physicians tell you that we think that you need more grafts and this is why, then you can make a better assessment. Paul Rose is one physician. He has a great reputation. He's been around for a long time. What's that?
No, keep talking. Uh-huh.
Oh.
This is for everyone else.
And, but to me, you can't just have one consultation, especially if you're not 100% comfortable. If you were 100% comfortable, go ahead.
I like Dr. Rose, though. I think he's great. His staff are really friendly. I'm just wondering that 2,000, I mean, I trust him. I'm just wondering if, Spencer and Joe, if that's the number, that's what he does on everybody. That's kind of where he's at now.
Here's the thing. It's called the practice of medicine for a reason. Everyone practices it slightly different. He's used to doing things a certain way, and it's very possible that given your hair characteristics and your age and all that stuff, that he feels comfortable starting with 2,000 grafts. But I can tell you, that is really a starting point. That is, it's unlikely that it will be your end point, in my view. Especially, I don't have any idea what you look like, but the fact that you're going in and you need a hair transplant, I mean, where would you assess your hair loss to be right now?
I would say, I think he was saying a 3.5, or 3, something. He didn't even. I don't even think he really even told me. It's just that my sides are good. It's just the front part. The front. We're talking the front. The front part is thin.
How much of the front?
I used to weigh my hair. Pardon me?
How much of the front is thin? An inch? 2 inches?
Maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches, something. I don't know. It's hard to say. A couple. Yeah. It's just it's thin back there. It's gotten thinner. It's not like a knock on wood. I'm not bald or anything. It's just that it's thin. It's thin to where it's noticeable. I used to wear my hair, it was feathery, kind of, good looking hair, and now it's not. It doesn't have the same volume, texture, thickness, that kind of thing. I'm older now, so I mean, he seemed to think that the lady, the assistant with the accent, said, "Oh no, it'll look great." He was raving on and on and on.
Okay, he's the person that you have to deal with. She doesn't know that it's going to look great.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
So,
right.
You know, you have to feel confident in what the surgeon has to say. And right now, it doesn't seem like you are. So, in my view, I don't think you should just go based on, well, I called the bald truth, and Spencer and Joe said, well, guess what? Paul Rose is now in your neck of the woods. It doesn't mean anything except that he's a good guy to have a consultation with and consider having surgery with. That's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
You have to come away with a confident feeling, 100%. And 2,000 grafts.
I did though.
But 2,000 grafts may be good or may not be good for you. That's why I'm saying you need to have more than one consultation.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do that, man. This is a lifetime.
All right.
You're doing this for a lifetime. If you think you're going in to have one surgery, that's very unlikely, especially with a small number of grafts. What do you think, Joe?
I agree, and I like when it comes to getting more consultations. You know, when Paul went to San Francisco, I was kind of happy about it because I didn't have anyone I could say, well, you can have a consultation with this guy, because I just, there's never been anyone in San Francisco I've been crazy about. I'm not crazy about Paul, but I mean, he's a reliable, I think a reliable doctor that has good aesthetics, good ethics, and he will give it to you straight as he sees it. But it doesn't mean go to him for surgery. He's a great guy to talk to. He's a nice guy too, and he knows what he's doing. But you have, up and down the East Coast, you got a number of options to consider, but it doesn't mean you have to have surgery with him. But because I don't think there's anyone really doing top-notch work in your area, then it means you got to either hop in your car, hop on a plane, or at the very least send some photos to some other clinics based on the parameters that they set forth for what they need to look at, and get opinions from 10 other clinics.
Wow.
And then assess. If they all say 2,000 to 2,500 grafts, then you know that that's a fair assessment.
Do you think there's a big difference between 2,500 and 2,000? I mean, I think he did say if it went over, he would do it and he would charge you. If it was another couple hundred extra...
What we're trying to tell you is don't be lazy about it. Just because we were like, oh, you're in San Francisco, check this guy out. He's good. He's good at what he does, for sure. Yeah. But you need to have more than one assessment, man. It's very possible that he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to be a little conservative with this guy because he's older. And maybe that's his comfort level. You also have to understand that they're developing a new staff there because he just moved there not too long ago, maybe 6 months ago or something like that. So there's a lot going on in the office, but he gave you probably a very fair assessment of your situation. He's very honest. But you need to get more than one. This is surgery, dude.
I know.
And, this is the danger of us even making a general reference to someone to talk to. And that's what I was talking about earlier at the top of the show, where people are asking us for a list of doctors to consider. All we got to do is just say, go consider this doctor for a consultation, and it's interpreted as go have surgery with this guy. And no fault to you. I mean, it's just it's difficult for us to walk that line at this point to even mention names to consider for consultation. And you're not the only one to misinterpret that. I get it. You're looking for answers. We live in a world where answers that are available at our fingertips. No one wants to dive in and learn about why someone may be worth considering, as opposed to just getting a list. So you saying that just kind of reiterates that I don't even know if I'm going to keep doing that. Go have a consultation with this guy or that guy, because it can be misconstrued as having surgery.
Yeah, and here's the
no. He was great though. Dr. Rose was great. I thought you guys were saying he's one of the best.
I don't doubt that he was.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything negative.
I don't doubt that he was. No. There's nothing. There's nothing like that in that interpretation. What I'm saying is, you thought we were saying that he was the one to have surgery with. We weren't. We were saying he's the one to have a consultation with, because we trust that he'll give you the truth as he sees it, based on his experience, which is vast. He's been doing this for probably 30 years. I know he does natural work, and I know he cares about what he does. But it doesn't mean to have surgery with him. Never ever have surgery with the first place that you have a consultation with. Inside it, like I know you've done research in the past, but you've recently picked up the mantle again to start your research and to find a clinic for your needs. Never have surgery with the first one. You can come back to them later, but have your consultation with one clinic, and then go have a consultation with 5 to 9 others. Like you need to get perspective on this and understand that different clinics will have different opinions.
And that's the point of us saying this, and the point of me kind of like pausing, is when you were like concerned about the number of grafts. I can't say that's the exact number of grafts that you need. The only way that you will know if that was a reasonable assessment is to speak with other doctors and to have consultations with them as well. Then you can say, well, all these people are telling me I need 2,000 grafts. I must need 2,000 grafts. I like Paul Rose the best. That's the guy I'm going to go to.
Mm-hmm. I see. I mean, I'll be totally honest. I thought maybe his age, maybe he didn't want to overtax himself. And I get it. You know, maybe he feels, you know what, I'm good for that. I don't want to be in here and do 3,000. I don't want to be in here all day. I just thought that might be, maybe I'm just a pessimist, you know.
You're not being a pessimist. That's not unrealistic. Again,
that's healthy.
These guys are, he's been doing this for a long time. And, doctors aren't necessarily quick to evolve or to change their methodology. This has worked for him for a very long time. He provides a really natural result. He knows what he's doing. But I don't know what your case looks like. I have no idea what your head looks like.
All right.
We may take a look at your pictures and say, holy shit, in our estimation, we're not doctors, but that may be underestimated. Or that seems reasonable. That's why you need to have other people look at your situation. You need consultations with other doctors.
I like Dr. Verona, too. I mean, they talk about, on his, he does everything himself. He seems like a machine, that Dr. Verona down in L.A.
Verona is
down there.
Verona is really good at what he does. He's very natural, and he's a machine.
Have you seen his arms?
Pardon me?
Have you seen the guy's guns? Like, the guy is a machine.
Right. That's the vibe I get. This guy
he's got massive arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're willing to go to fly to L.A. or to drive or fly, whatever, I mean, absolutely. You should have a consultation and see what he has to say. And you're right, he does do everything himself. As far as, he does 100% of the FUE, except for, I don't think he does all the placement. But, I mean, it's unusual. So that's another good choice. And he may say, 2,000 grafts.
Okay.
And you may have an assessment with him and think to yourself, I'd rather go with this guy. You just need to take the time to do enough. If you have a question about anything, it doesn't matter if the guy's a nice guy. It doesn't matter if we tell you that this is a guy you should have a consultation with, or that you have somebody really good in your backyard. You need to have more than one consultation. Minimum of 3.
Right.
Minimum.
And I'm going to do that. Yeah, I get, you're right. And I'm going to absolutely do that. And I will report back at 100%. Just when a guy like Morty calls up, I know he's lost more hair than me. I don't know if he calls that in here. But, I mean, he got 4,000 the first time? And then he got, it's like, wow, I was wondering, it's like, hey, 2,000's cool if that's all I need. But, hey, if you could do more, why not? I mean, all things being equal.
Well, you only want more if you need more. If you get if you don't need more, then you can cause more harm than good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not more. Okay.
So more isn't necessarily better. It's just you want to make sure that you are getting the appropriate amount of grafts moved for your situation. But I can tell you that one session of 2,000 grafts for most people, especially if they are close to or Norwood 3 or more, probably won't be your first surgery.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something I need to ask them, though. Hey, do you guys think if you do this, am I going to need another one? Do you anticipate that I would need a second one? I guess that's a question I really didn't directly ask.
Almost
him. I didn't really get
almost
into-
everyone needs a second surgery at some point.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
so
like
keep that in mind.
Year or two. Within a year. But Joe, I mean, within a year or two. I get it later, but Morty got his like a year or less than a year later. Is he thinking? I go. Is your plan to do 2,000 now, and the next year you want me to do another 2,000?
That's a valid question, but here's the thing, and then we'll wrap up. But the situation is if he says 2,000 grafts and he says, yes, you will need a second surgery because of density issues. Like I don't hit that density in one session. This is just hypothetical. You may say to yourself after you have that 2,000 grafts and it's 1 year later, you might be like, I'm happy. I don't need more density. This is actually pretty damn dense. And then you don't need a second surgery. It could be the other way around. He'll say, no, you won't need another surgery. This will set you up. But your particular idea of what is aesthetically acceptable might not be in the same universe as he is. And you might be like, hey, I want more. That wasn't enough. I do need a second surgery. And you might be upset about it because the doctor said you'll need one surgery, which happens a lot, actually. So who knows if you'll need a second surgery? Will you want one? Will you need one? What does need even mean? You know, it's it's highly variable. Highly variable.
It's just that listening to you guys, it seems like 90% of the people get a second one. 90%. I know you always say wait as long as you can. The longer you wait, the better. It just seems like everybody gets a second one, and that's what I don't want to start doing that. And if he expects that or not. And by the way, as a footnote, he did say that the no shave FUE. I don't remember his reasoning, but he said that it would be better if I didn't get that. I forgot what he said. Why? I don't remember what the reasoning was.
And that's a different discussion. But about the density issue, about the number of surgeries, if you decide to have surgery after you have more consultations, do not do not say to yourself, okay, it's this one and I'm done. If you go in with that idea and you're proven wrong, you will be very upset. And you don't want to be upset after you have, like, you could have a beautiful result. You could have a very natural result that completely frames your face in a much stronger way that anyone else would be happy with. But if you think that you need more density because, and this is after being told that you only need one surgery, you'll be upset and you don't want to be in that position. Go in with an open mind, expecting a high probability of needing a second surgery, and be damn glad when the result grows in and you're like, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm good. That's the way to go about this.
I know you guys got to get going. Let me ask you one other question. In your general experience, being experts and doing this for so long, how soon thereafter typically do people get, I know it must vary, a second surgery? I mean, what is it kind of a reasonable period that people would typically get a second one?
I would say in recent years, it's probably within 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah.
See,
for a whole list of reasons.
Yeah.
As long as my arm. Okay?
All right, brother. Listen,
Okay.
have
Thank
more
you very much.
consultations. You may pick Dr. Rose, and that would be a good choice, but make sure you're happy with the assessment and everything. Make sure all your questions are answered. And I'm telling you, there's a strong possibility that it will not be one and done.
Okay, I know. I got you. Well, I hope you don't mind if I call again and update you on the...
We'd love you calling in, man. You're always welcome to call.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
I'll
Take
talk to
care.
you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye. All right, guys.
Doesn't mean we'll answer.
Of course we will.
Of course we will.
Oh,
we love
man. But I am writing down certain numbers, though. Not his. Holy
Caller
shit.
ID.
Yeah.
Block. No, totally kidding. Totally kidding. Good show.
Yeah.
Good callers. Thank you, everyone, for calling in, and thank you even more for those that were watching and chatting. You know, that's the thing about our show is the chat room is always on fire. I love that. I love seeing the the interaction. What I love seeing more is when people hit that like button because they appreciate the fact that you and I are sitting here on our asses for 2.5 hours every Friday to bring them this incredible content. So yeah, hope to see the
leg fell asleep.
The likes going up. But of course, also, if you're like the last caller that doesn't know when we come on every Friday,
it's on the website now
because he's not subscribed. No, you're not supposed to say that. It's like you don't go to the website. You subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for all notifications, and you too will know when we're live every Friday, which for the foreseeable future will be 3 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah, I changed
good show. Good job.
Good. All right, guys, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.